some of these pieces in New Zealand, if you will.
Did Granger go on to arrange some of these free music pieces for mechanical means? I've got some recollection that later in his life, some sort of not electronic, but maybe mechanical means were used to produce that music.
Yes, he continued to develop these ideas and had some very large and lumbering machines in his living room for the last 15 years of his life. One of them was called the S.D. Reed Tone Tool, that's in his blue-eyed English, of course, which was a reed machine. One was called the Kangaroo Pouch Tone Tool. I won't elaborate that, you can probably imagine it hopping along. And his last one, not quite completed at his death, was called the Electric Eye Tone Tool, in which photocells read the changing amount of light admitted to a slit by the hills and dales of Granger's graphs, and turns this information into sound emitted from loudspeakers. So he was trying to get this sense of gliding, malleable, formless music, rather than the sharp angles of pitch leaps or definite rhythmic conjunctions.
This is just an observation, but presumably Granger's own testament to his Australianness was borne out in the establishment of his museum in Melbourne. Would you agree?
Maybe. Granger rather liked to found museums. And he did found one at the University of Melbourne, and it was built in 2 stages in the 1930s. But he also, until 1944, harboured the view of having one in Adelaide, in the home of his Aunt Clara. And when she died in 1944, he did want to turn it into a museum too, but then he thought, well, no, maybe it'd be better to sell it off. But he did look at having museums also in the United States, and deposited various collections of materials. His view was that if there are great wars and conflagrations, it's good to scatter the stuff around a bit. So he was always trying to make 5 copies of everything. And in some regard that wasn't a bad idea, because as we now try to gather them all together, if you can't find them in Australia, there are various deposits in the Library of Congress, with some friends he had out in Oregon or Washington. In the middle of the Second World War, he actually went and lived in Springfield, Missouri, because he wanted to be as far away from the coast as possible, in case either the Germans or the Japanese actually invaded. And so he packaged up all of his materials and deposited them in further libraries at that time. So maybe it isn't an absolutely conclusive test, but the fact that he did put it in Melbourne, his birthplace, did say something either about the importance of